Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 11th Annual Women's Forum, and thank you for joining us this evening. This event is held in March of every year in recognition and celebration of Women's History Month. This special month is set aside nationally to increase consciousness and knowledge of women's history and to remember the contributions of famous and ordinary women. The purpose of our Women's Forum is to put the spotlight on Durham women, women who work or live in Durham, and to get them to share their experiences and tell their stories. We feel that the sharing of stories and experiences is a powerful tool because it can serve as role models for everyone. Role models are genuinely needed for young women, as well as men, to face the extraordinary challenges that we face in society today. I would like to take the time to thank you again for coming out and joining us for another exciting evening. We will now have a welcome and greeting from our Mayor Pro Tem, Cora Cole McFadden.
Good evening, everyone. Come on, we can do better than that in Durham. This is Durham, North Carolina, a special place in this nation, so we can do better than that. What an honor it is for me to be in the midst of such greatness as we celebrate Women's History Month. And I see so many young people. Young people, stand up. I know even the older folk want to stand up, but the young people, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. And they will be recognized later on. That's good. If you're young in heart, you may stand up. That's why I'm standing. On behalf of the greatest mayor on earth, the Honorable William V. Bill Bell, and my colleagues on the City Council, I extend to you warm greetings and congratulate the Human Relations Division of Neighborhood Improvement Services for its work and on the selection of such outstanding women who will share their stories with us this evening. And before I proceed, let me recognize the presence of one of my colleagues on the council, Mr. Don Moffitt. If you would stand, Don. As you're aware, March is Women's History Month, but we all know that there are not enough days in the month of March or the entire year to share all the contributions we have made to make this world, this country, this state, this county, or the city what they all are today. We know that throughout the year, women continue to make history through the lives we touch, the difference we make wherever we are. The trials, obstacles, tests are many. Then there's this misunderstanding of our unshakable resolve, but we continue to stand, don't we, women? Give ourselves, that's right, give us a round of applause. So you remember these strong women like Sojourner Truth and Mary McLeod Bethune and Dorothy Height and Rosa Parks and Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm and Jeannie Lucas right here from Durham, and Coretta Scott King, to the first African-American woman to head North Carolina Central University, Chancellor Deborah Saunders White, and so many more. Just look at all the contributions all the contributions we make to society. Look at the lives they have touched. And these are mentors who are sharing and providing wisdom to our young people. The women we will hear from tonight, and all of us who are women, stand on the shoulders of so many who paved the way for us. So now it is our responsibility to bring others along with us. So let us resolve to support each other, to love each other, to reach out to each other. Thank you, sisters, my sisters, for all the lives you touch, for the difference you make in the lives of others. And may God continue to bless you and your families as you travel this journey called life. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you for that wonderful greeting. Before we go to begin with the introduction of the panelists, I would also like to recognize there are directors that are here. If you will stand, I think it's also the Deputy City Manager, Wanda Page. I don't see you, but if you will stand up. Thank you for coming. And Jermaine Brewington, I think, is here. She's in the back. Okay, are there other directors that are here? Yes, and Deborah Giles, will you please stand up also? Okay, let's give them a hand. And I would also like to recognize the Human Relations Commissioners that are here that came out this evening. And that's Commissioner Ricky Hart, it's right there. Commissioner Dick Ford, and he's here. Did anyone else come in? Other commissioners? Yes, okay, thank you so much. And that is Jerry Robinson. Thanks for coming out. These are our commissioners, and as Mayor Pro Tem Cora informed you, Don Moffitt is here, and he is our Human Relations Commission staff liaison. So we're so glad that he joined us tonight. So without further ado, let's move forward to introducing the panelists, and I'll start with the first one, and I'll just call out their name, and you can save your applause for the end. Sherry DeVries, Grace Marsh, Amber Rupinta, Bertha Johnson, Dr. Chitra Subramaniam, and Janice Matt Guess. We're ready for the inspiring stories. First, let me start with the introduction for Sherry DeVries. Sherry has been executive director of the Durham Arts Council since 2002. She has 30 years of leadership experience in arts and cultural institutions. She was born and raised in Western North Carolina. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Management degree from Lake Erie College in Ohio, and a Master of Arts in Arts, Entertainment, and Media Management from Columbia College in Chicago. Under her leadership, the Durham Arts Council has expanded services to the community and launched many new partnerships. She serves on boards and advisory boards of the Durham Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Durham, Inc., the Durham Cultural Advisory Board, and the Durham Performing Arts Center Oversight Committee. During her 25 years in the Chicago area, she served as executive director for the Hinsdale Center for the Arts, and in 1999 was awarded the Governor's Award for the Arts, the top honor in Illinois for arts organization excellence. She lives in Durham with her husband, 4 cats, and 2 horses. She is passionate about horseback riding and singing, and is a member of the Union Grove United Methodist Church, where she sings in the choir. She is also a member of the Durham Rotary Club. Please welcome Ms. Sherry DeVries. Thank you.
Good evening. It is such an honor, a great honor, to be here with you tonight and to be among these incredible women leaders. And I thank you, Ms. Donaldson, and your team for all that you do to present this event each year. I want to thank my friends from Union Grove United Methodist Church, and my dear husband, and my music friends and arts friends for coming tonight. As I look back over my life and career, I realized that I could not have overcome difficulties and challenges except for the fact that I had wonderful people in my life, people that were helping me, teaching me, and inspiring me. I wanted to share with you some of the core values that I've learned from them, and those core values have been my steering system throughout my life. I was born in Lenoir, North Carolina, and raised in a tiny community out in the country called Patterson, as you go up the mountain between Lenoir and Blowing Rock. We didn't have much, and I remember spending lots of time at church and singing at church, which I loved, and spending many hours with the Sears catalog. That's about the only thing we had to connect us with the outside world, and imagining what I would hope to have someday for my life and my family. Back then, the dream was avocado appliances. Of course, we didn't have any of those things. Grandma's washing machine was the old electric tub with the roller wringer, and you had to heat up water on the stove and pour it into the washing machine. But it was this process of dreaming and imagining that helped me to grow and work hard to make a better life. And for everyone in my family, they did the same thing. I started learning my core values early in life. From my grandmother Isaac, my dad's mother, I learned about courage in the face of adversity. Her husband died when my dad was 18 months old. He was the youngest of 5 children. And Grandma worked hard all of her life and raised those 5 children in the depths of the 1930s Depression. Every child went on to get educated and to create wonderful lives, and my grandmother lived to be 102 years old. I spent a lot of time with her when I was young, and she taught me the core values of anything worth doing is worth doing well. Have faith in God, and do what's right and honest. You may not have much, but you can always be neat and clean. Honor thy father and thy mother. Keep working at it little by little, and you will accomplish your goal. Don't give up. And probably the last values that she taught me in 2003, just before she passed away, were about friendship. I had just moved back to North Carolina, to Durham, after 25 years in Chicago. And after being here for about a year and working very hard at my job, meeting myself coming and going, but feeling sad about all the friends that I had left behind in Illinois, I wondered how I would ever build a new family of friends here. One weekend when I visited with her and talked about this, she said to me, and she was 100 years old, "To have a friend, you have to be a friend. Smile at people. Everyone's afraid and shy, and if you reach out to them, they will smile back." All of her teachings have served me well, and I am so blessed to have many, many new friends here in Durham today, as well as all of the old ones from the past. My father said to me, "You can do anything. I believe in you. I'm proud of you." He said, if you don't know how to do something, watch, listen, and learn from those around you, and especially someone that you admire and trust. The cream rises to the top. You've got to do your best work and learn how to improve things. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. He taught me the importance of a strong work ethic and integrity. My dad rose to top management for Lennox Industries over the years, and later on was the owner and president of his own mechanical contracting company. He was a respected and admired businessman, but he went about his work in a quiet, honorable way. However, you'd better not have done him wrong on a major contract or not do good work. He was fierce. He told me, sometimes you've got to be tough to get things done right. From my stepmother, who was my mom for 47 years, I learned an amazing depth of spirituality and love. She battled very painful rheumatoid arthritis for 30 years, and I have never before known someone that was so loving, so spiritual, so funny and compassionate and kind towards other people, when clearly it would have been easier for her to be angry and complaining about her illness. She taught me to be a lady, to mind my manners, and about etiquette. From my mother, you see, I was lucky and had 2 moms. I learned about the beauty of classical music and art and creativity. I learned from her about being independent and how a woman can make it in the business world. She taught me how to dress sharp and how to wear scarves, of which now I have dozens. And one year when I became very sick at college, she saved and changed my life by sending me a care package of vitamins and a book on nutrition. From my high school English teacher at the Andrews School in Ohio, Mrs. Anderson, I learned to write. She taught me the core value: if you can write well, you can go anywhere and do just about anything. And write I did. I had her for 2 years, and every day we wrote and wrote and wrote. Throughout my life, there have been a few people that I did not understand, and a few people that have made life painful at times. I especially remember 2 high school girls who teased me mercilessly and called me names, in another language, no less. What they didn't know was that I was taking that language in school, and when I looked up those words, it was all the more painful. I had done nothing to deserve it. I was actually kind of a geek in high school. I was quiet and loved horses and ballet and played guitar and wrote songs and created artwork. What that experience taught me with those 2 high school girls was how much influence you have on the people around you, whether positive or negative, and how I would never want to harm someone else like that. Words and intentions are powerful. Use them for good. So all these core values taught to me by very important people in my life served me well as I completed my education. I finished first in my high school class, went on to complete my associate's degree in applied arts, finished my bachelor's degree, and then my master's degree. But they didn't come sequentially. I did not have the resources to do that. I would go a couple of years and then work a few years to put together the resources to go back to school. Work a few years and then go back to school. But I was determined to get my education. Then I landed that first really big opportunity in arts management, a 6-month gig as interim public relations associate for the renowned Chicago Field Museum of Natural History. And I'll share this story with you. It's a vivid memory of how I got it. I saw the little classified ad in the Sunday Chicago Tribune, and I still have that clipping. I knew I had to have that job. I had just finished an interim job as PR manager at an art center in Chicago. I had a decent portfolio and resume, but I'm sure there were other people more experienced. However, they did not have my tenacity and my passionate belief that that was my job. I took a leap of faith, a huge leap of faith. I edited my resume and called the Field Museum HR department to inquire. They said they already had many resumes for that position, and they didn't have any openings for interviews. But they said that they had open office on Tuesdays, and you could come and present your resume and wait in line for any opportunity to speak with an HR staff person. I said, I will be there. So the next morning, I hopped on an L train, took the CTA bus to the lakefront, and then walked half a mile across Grant Park to the Field Museum. I was told I would have to wait since there were already other people in front of me. I waited all day, literally, but I did not give up. Towards the end of the day, the HR manager, noting my tenacity and politeness, said she would take my resume but didn't have time to meet with me. I could wait if I liked. She finally came out, and I was still there. She said I could come back on Thursday for an interview. I thanked her and headed outside the museum to catch the bus. As I stood on the front steps of the museum, the cold wind in Chicago on the lakefront began to whip my coat around. She came out of the building and recognized me and offered me a ride downtown, which I gratefully accepted. What a great opportunity to be able to speak with her during the ride. On Thursday, I had my interview. It went very well, and I spoke with her and saw that she had many applications sitting on the desk behind her. And she said, yes, we've received 200 applications, but I'll get back to you next week if you're to be considered. I smiled and said, if you hire me, you won't have to go through all those resumes. Well, I'm not sure what I did, but it worked. And after several interviews, I had the job and had the opportunity to work harder than I had ever thought possible. I made it to the next level of a permanent position, was promoted 2 additional times, and went on to be Director of Public Affairs and Marketing, and worked with top dignitaries, scientists, artists, and news media from around the world for 9 years. In the years that followed, I had the opportunity to work at Navy Pier and develop that entertainment destination, and work at the Hinsdale Center for the Arts, again focusing on how to improve things, how to share the arts with more people in our community. I'm so proud today to serve the Durham Arts Council in our community and to focus on how to make everything we do better, how to serve more citizens and artists, how to grow our economy through the arts, and how to encourage everyone to explore their own creativity as well as appreciate the creative talents of others. I work with an amazing staff and board, and I'm proud to say that we've grown attendance 92% and expanded our programs and partnerships. I'm so blessed to do the work that I love. I've learned that it takes effort, hard work, hanging in there, caring about others, giving back, and believing in yourself to be successful. But if you listen to that still, small voice within you and have faith, you will know when you're on the right path. I thank the special people in my life now that continue to teach me. I thank the special people in my life who taught me my core values. They have all passed away now, but they are still with me every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for that inspiring story. Our next panelist is Grace Jackson Marsh. Grace Marsh is a trained facilitator and mediator with 18 years of experience helping others resolve conflict. She's a graduate of North Carolina Central University's Criminal Justice Program. She has provided conflict resolution training and mediation to a variety of venues, including District Court, Durham Public Schools, and to AmeriCorps participants throughout the South. Marsh now serves as the Executive Director of the Elna B. Spaulding Conflict Resolution Center, formerly Women in Action Durham Mediation Center. This center provides mediation to address an array of issues, including but not limited to neighborhood disputes, separation, divorce, child visitation, and Medicaid appeals. Without further ado, please welcome Grace Jackson Marsh.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming out. I'm sure most of you, like me, work today, and here you are after 6 o'clock, and I thank you for being here. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, but I feel like I'm a North Carolinian. I remember growing up, my family's from North Carolina, and I remember growing up that we used to visit the South, and I don't know why I wanted to live here, because where we visited, it wasn't wonderful. I mean, my family wasn't rich or anything, you know, but I just kind of liked it. And my mother talked about how wonderful it was down here. And so I knew that I wanted to live here one day, but I'm a city girl. I grew up in the city. I went to an all-girls school and called Eastern High School, which is no longer there. And City High School was across the street, and it was an all-boys high school, and somehow they found a way to change our schedules, so we never saw each other, which was crazy to me. I went to school at a time right after the schools were integrated in Baltimore. And during that time, there was a way that you were led into a certain direction, which wasn't towards college. You were led towards a general business course or some sort of a course where you could, you know, be a clerk or a secretary of some sort. And so I was led into a business class, and they expected us one day to find some job maybe at Social Security, because Social Security headquarters is in Baltimore. And to get a job at Social Security was a good job in that day and time, because you worked for the federal government and you had a chance to just, you know, grow with the federal government. And I remember that I'd gotten a job when I graduated with Social Security, and it was one of those 10-key machines that you just kind of, you slid this little card into the machine and you typed in Social Security cards. I lasted 1 month on that job. It's like, this is not me. I've always been someone who wanted to do something to make a difference and wanted to do something to help other people. And I remember my mother, she likes to remind me of the time we were sitting at the table, and I had just come from school, and I had learned about, you know, the settlers and the American Indians and how we basically took the land from them. And she said, I sat at the table and I was like just really outraged about it. And that's kind of how I am. I knew that I wanted to do something where I could help other people. And I was thinking, when I was thinking about what I was going to say today, I started thinking about all the jobs that I've had. And I've had many, many jobs. I remember when I graduated from high school, somehow I knew that I wanted to go to college. None of my mother's kids, I mean, it was me and my brother and my sister, and none of us had gone to school. My mother had not finished high school. My grandfather had just gone to like 6th grade, young people. He had 6th grade. And he was such a hard worker. He was a janitor. He worked for this very expensive restaurant downtown, and he used to bring goodies home every night. That's the only way we got to taste lobster. And he also had a couple of barber shops where he worked. And he would take me and my brother to help him sweep the floors and clean up. So he was a hard worker, and he taught us, that as long as you work and you make a living for yourself, you're doing good. I mean, you're doing good to be able to work. And there's nothing wrong with hard work. And so we were never embarrassed about the fact that he did this because, we grew up in a family where we didn't know we were poor growing up. We just didn't know it. We lived in a row house. And row houses, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a townhouse. But in Baltimore, they're really old townhouses. And you don't live in a city and not have mice. So, the mice run from townhouse to townhouse. And along with that are roaches, too, that you have. And I remember thinking, when I was growing up, when I grow up, I'm not going to have any mice in my house. I'm not going to have any roaches in my house. I'm just not going to have these things. And so I had these dreams. I used to read a lot. And I think that, that took me away and made me think that, there is a better life. And my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather all wanted that for me. My mom and dad were divorced when I was very young. And so I saw him often, but we pretty much lived with my grandparents. So I ended up, my grandfather encouraged me to go ahead to junior college and helped me to get into junior college. And I went for a year, and I ended up meeting my now ex-husband and moved to Connecticut. And he promised me I could go back to school, which didn't happen until I moved back here to North Carolina, because he was from North Carolina. So I made it to North Carolina through my ex-husband. And when we got here, it was just so easy to get into school. I mean, because, we live in an area that is rich in education. And there's no reason, young people, that you can't go to school. And I went part-time. I remember one of my jobs when I was trying to get my degree was a security guard at Duke. And I also worked as a clerk at the hospital. I worked as a secretary. I've worked in a department store. I worked at Winn-Dixie. I've had all kinds of jobs. But after I got my degree, I went to work for Operation Breakthrough. And I got a job as a counselor. And what we did is we helped people who were trying to find jobs. We did their resumes. We taught them how to look for jobs. And during the course of teaching that, we used to teach them how they should find something that they really like to do, when they felt like they could really make a contribution. Because it's always good when you can do what you like to do. And so I thought I wanted to be a probation officer, and I thought I wanted to be an attorney. But after working in the district attorney's office as a secretary for a year, I decided that wasn't for me. So Operation Breakthrough, I think, though, was the place where I realized that I needed to do something where I could help others, where I could give back to them. So while I was there was an ad in the paper to take mediation training free at the Dispute Settlement Center. Mike Went was the director then. And I took this, I think we paid $5 for our notebook. So I took this 1 week, I think it was about a week of training, a 40-hour training, and learned to be a mediator. And I loved it. I thought, I found what I love to do. And what I think that we have to do in life, sometimes we think we need to find some place and we need to stay there for the next 15 to 20 years so that we can retire. But you don't want to spend your life doing something you don't like to do. That's one thing I've learned. If you're not doing something that you like to do, money isn't as important as it is to contribute something that you enjoy doing, because when you enjoy doing it, you do it well. And I enjoy teaching conflict resolution. I enjoy mediating. I feel so fulfilled when I help people resolve their conflicts. It's just so nice to see people walk out and feel like, well, wow, when I came in here, I was angry, but, I've worked it out. So what I would encourage you, young people, and all of you to do is maybe in your second life after you retire, find those things that you feel you have skills and abilities, and give back to other people. Do those things that make you happy, but do those things that help others, because I did learn growing up. My grandfather was a minister, and I forgot to say that. I spent most of my time in church growing up, but it taught me well. It taught me that I am my brother's keeper, and I do owe something to society as a person who lives in this world. I owe back to my parents and to other people who've gone before me, and to the young people. And I just encourage all of you to seek those things that you can do to make other people's lives better and that you really enjoy doing too. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Our next panelist is Amber Rupinta. Amber Rupinta starts each day at 4:30 a.m. each weekday as the news anchor on ABC 11 Eyewitness News this morning. She also reports on various stories throughout the Triangle. Amber joined ABC 11 in February of 2004. She began her career behind the scenes at WJZ in Baltimore before becoming a reporter on the Baltimore Sun high school sports show. Amber is no stranger to the Carolinas, having spent several years growing up on the Cherokee Indian Reservation. She is one of 8 children and a military brat who spent her childhood in interesting places all over the United States. Amber's father joined the U.S. Navy to immigrate to America from the Philippines. She is a member of the Asian American Journalists Association and a graduate of Towson University. Amber, her husband Billy, and 2 sons live in Raleigh. Amber.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy lives. I know that I've been up since 3:30 this morning. Although they did the inaugural mass for the Pope this morning, so we went on a little late, around 5:30. So anyhow, thank you for being here. I know everybody leads very, very busy lives, and this is fun for me because obviously I love a good story. And that's what led me to the career path that I am in. So I love hearing everyone's stories, and all of us are in our story of our life. And I think that's the one thing that if you take away from this, what I hope that you take away is you can contribute to your story. There are so many players in our stories that get us to where we need to be, but you also have a big stake in that story. Obviously, your family, your friends, we're in such a media-saturated society, and you're hearing all these messages from so many different places. I think if you listen to yourself, if you listen to your heart, and if you're true to yourself, with always wanting to give back to your community, to be involved in the community, I think that will serve you well in how you go through life. My story is I grew up in a very big family, and we moved a lot. My dad was an immigrant, and he joined the Navy, and they went through school. And when you have a big family, you don't get a lot of attention. So sometimes I think, why did I end up in this career? Oh, I didn't get enough attention. I need to be on television. The honest truth is, my dad was a news junkie. He loved the news. Peter Jennings. I grew up with Peter Jennings, and eventually we ended up living outside D.C., and I saw Peter Jennings in Georgetown. I was speechless. I felt like such a nerd. I was, 14 years old going, it's Peter Jennings. And people are with like, oh, and I went and said hello and talked to him. I never thought I'm going to be in the news, but my sister one day said to me, the truth is she wanted to work as a reporter, and she said, Amber, you're real nosy. You ask a lot of questions. You'd be a good reporter. And I thought, a reporter? Like a TV reporter? Because this is the mind of a teenager, right? So she said, yeah, you should probably look into it. So honest truth, I was a huge New Kids on the Block fan. seriously. And I was waiting one night for a special with Connie Chung. And I thought, this is who you get to interview as a news reporter? New Kids on the Block. I mean, but that's what you think, right? And I was like, I'm sold. How do I sign up for this? Whatever it was, I was very, very interested in it. So it led me there, and I got interested in it. And then you get older, and your reasons change, and then you start to realize what the effect you really can have on a community, especially. Some of the most fun stories and the most rewarding things I do are, it's always reporting. You know, everybody strives, they think they want to be an anchor, and that's the trophy in it all. But the truth is, you'll never have more rewarding work than being out in the field. The photographer here, Chris Hart, he's been overseas, covered wars, and it's a team effort with your photographer. Tomorrow he's going to cover the NCAA tournament, so he needs to go, but thanks for coming. Yeah, okay, thank you. But I think that's the thing that makes it interesting for us. Obviously, you have to have a sense of adventure. I am a very hard worker, bye Chris, and I get up early and go to work, but you never know what you're going into as a reporter. So no matter what you choose, I think be true to yourself, always do it with the understanding that it is to serve your community, to serve others, and you really can make a difference. So we have 5 girls, 3 boys, and my dad's a big dreamer. When he came to this country, he was 27, so all he ever told us was, dream big, honey, dream big. You can do anything. They wanted us all to go in medicine. None of us did. My parents both work in medicine. So one of my sisters is a police officer in the Phoenix Police Department, and she's pretty high up now. She heads the Home Invasion Kidnapping Enforcement Unit. And in a big family, the older siblings kind of parent the younger siblings. So I always went to her, and she was always really confident and sure. And, you know, she joined the police department. I told her thought I wanted to be a reporter. But I said, I don't know how I would even do that. I mean, it's not like you open the paper and there are like jobs for this, you know, it's a difficult career. And so she was the person that took me to watch a local morning news program in Phoenix. She went through their media relations department and they called, and I thought, she said, don't ever be intimidated. They're people just like you and this, you know, but you get intimidated, you get ideas in your head. And I think from all the exposure that we get in what the job we do, we get to meet a lot of different people that are very influential, and you know, and I think that's the thing is there's really no difference. I mean, I think the people that have touched me the most are always the most genuine people that have the heart of a teacher, that really, no matter what you're doing, whether it's medicine or therapy or working, you know, in the Arts Council, whatever it is you're doing, I think if you have the heart of a teacher, and kind of that's what I always say, I think I'd be a teacher if I wasn't doing this, because that's kind of what we do when we turn stories. We go and we learn quickly, and we put it all together in a nice little package, and we try to teach the people that are watching. But I think, you know, listen to the people that you know are going to help you. There's going to be obstacles. All of us have had obstacles, whether it's you didn't have money to go to school, or you had your brothers, you know, beating you up because you had a huge family. You can overcome them, and every day at work, there's obstacles at work, but you have to get it done. It doesn't stop. It never stops, and it is not easy. And I think, especially for women, there's a lot of conversation right now about the number 2 woman at Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, has written a book called Lean In. And it's causing a lot of controversy in some cases, but it also starting a lot of dialogue about the role women play in taking leadership positions. And she talks, I'm reading the book right now, it's very interesting, but she talks about being, you know, with all these heads of state, and there were 152, 8 were women. And what she's saying is, women, it's especially hard for women, especially once children come into the picture and that sort of thing. And she's imploring people to lean in and take a seat and know that you should be at that boardroom table, and you should, you know, you should be there. And she's also talking about policy. There's a lot of conversation. We could talk about this later, because some people have different views, but I also now can attest to the fact that I have small children, and your career path changes. Your reasons for what you went into something, it kind of ebbs and flows, and you gotta be fluid with it, because your reasons for working kind of change throughout your life. But if you stay to the heart of it and you remember why you went into what you went into, I think that it makes it easier. There's a lot of challenges. Dealing with people can be difficult, but you have to kind of remember what it is that you want to do. And my dad did say you really can do anything that you want, and ask for help. So when you have 8 kids, especially, you don't get a lot of attention. My parents were working to try to feed us. I had a really good guidance counselor that knew that I had a teacher that said, you're really smart, but you're a social butterfly, and you got to kind of focus, And then I had a guidance counselor that I said, can you help me apply to college? And he sat with me, and we filled out all my applications. And when I got accepted, I went to my mom, and she said, how much is this going to cost? And you know what I just said? I'll figure it out. And to this day, that's kind of my motto. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. So ask for help. There's a lot of resources. This is a wonderful community of resources. I mean, I have to say, we moved here with the intention of going back up north, and we never left. So it's been 9 years, almost 10. And it truly is a special place. There's so many opportunities here, and a wonderful system of schools. So I would say tap into the resources, where you are. And Abraham Lincoln said, whatever you are, be a good one. So, and if you need anything, count on Chris. I can't.
Thank you, Amber. And also, thanks for bringing the news crew. Our next panelist is Bertha Johnson. Bertha Johnson is the Director of Budget and Management Services for the City of Durham. In this role, she is responsible for developing and managing the city's operating and capital budget, totaling over $400 million for fiscal year 2012 to 13. Bertha is also responsible for strategic planning, process improvements, and organizational development. She serves on the city's executive leadership team. She has over 18 years of budget and finance experience in local and state government. She has also served as president of the North Carolina Local Government Budget Association. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from Elon University and an MPA from North Carolina Central. Bertha and her 2 daughters, Chelsea and Ashley, live in Durham. Welcome, Bertha. Okay.
Thank you all for such a wonderful program tonight. It's my pleasure to serve on this panel with such esteemed women to celebrate Women's History Month. Even as I stood out in the lobby this afternoon, I was inspired by a lady that I met in the lobby. Miss Velma Bertha, I met her in the lobby this afternoon, and we were talking about Girl Scouts, and she revealed to me that she has been a Girl Scout leader for 20 years. How inspiring for someone to commit their life for 20 years to such a noble cause. And she inspired me because I was once a Girl Scout leader, and I decided to move on to something else. And so as I talked to her, I thought, maybe I should be a Girl Scout leader again. I didn't really serve my time like Miss Bertha. So as I thought about what I was going to share with you today, I became exhausted with the possibilities. I have so many stories that I could share, but given the time and the message that I'd like to deliver to you, I'm just going to share a few of my stories. I grew up in a rural community with my mother, a single mother of 3 children. She worked in a cotton mill factory until she retired. My mother was a hard worker who worked 7 days a week, sometimes during the day, sometimes in the evening, sometimes all night, and we stayed at home alone. She was a proud woman, though, sometimes to her detriment. She never asked anyone for anything and vowed to take care of her children on her own. And I learned from my mother that you need to make sure you can take care of yourself and your children if you have to one day. My grandmother was my second mother. I was named after my grandmother, and believe me, it took me a really, really, really long time for me to let my mom forget that one. But later in life, I began to appreciate that name because my grandmother had 45 grandchildren, and she asked my mom to name me after her. So I realized it was actually an honor. I stayed with my grandmother often. I would stay with her weeks at a time during the summer. I would stay with her, go on Friday, and come back to school on Monday from her house. I like to cook with her. My mom never did those kinds of things because she was so busy. I like to cook with her, make quilts, plant flowers, go to church, and she always wore those really, really big hats. And to this day, I still do not feel classy enough to wear the hats that my grandmother wore when I went to church. She and my grandfather also raised 10 children of their own and 2 grandchildren. So my grandmother and my mother are the source of my strength, courage, and perseverance. Growing up, my mom, grandmother, aunts, and uncles always said, "You should go to college." But no one could tell me how to get there. They knew nothing about college. They just saw it on TV and said, "You're really smart. You should go to college." So I went to my guidance counselor, Miss Harper. Miss Harper knew how to get me to college. She sat me down and she helped me fill out my applications, helped me fill out applications for financial aid because we had no money. She also talked to me about being which college I should go to. I was a first-generation college student. First-generation college students are considered high risk, as these students are less likely to graduate from college as compared to their peers. So she encouraged me to go to a small college, which she thought would be easier for me to navigate, and I would get the support that I needed. So I decided to go to Elon University. When I arrived on Elon's campus, I was shocked. I didn't know anything about college. I had never even visited the campus. I couldn't get there. I didn't have a way to get there to visit the campus. While I was in college, I worked to pay for my portion of tuition that was not covered by scholarships and grants, and that was a lot. I remember my freshman year going to the financial aid office and asking for work study. And the man in the office said to me, "The only work study job we have available is doing play-by-play for the football team." So I knew a few football words because I would cheerlead in high school. And I desperately needed the money, desperately. So I accepted the job, giving the impression that I knew all about football. I spent the entire season begging for help from the guys around me and copying their papers. And I'm sure there were much more information on players from the other team than there were from my team. My mom never had to call the school or come to the school for any reason. I handled all of my business. I learned this from my mother. I did not have enough money to cover tuition for a semester on many occasions. I went to the financial aid office and I asked for help. Is there another work-study job that I can do? I was desperate to stay in college. So in addition to doing play-by-play, I was a resident assistant for a freshman dorm, tutor, worked at Hardee's, you name it. I worked in the cafeteria. I was just determined to stay in college. My freshman year, when I was assigned an advisor, I told him that I wanted to become a business major. That's the only major I knew about. Everyone talked about being a business major. So he said okay, and he signed the forms, and I started being a business major. The second year, I got a new advisor who was a female French teacher. I was frustrated. Why was I assigned a French teacher? What did she know about accounting? What did she know about business? Why were they assigning that advisor to me? She was new, and they were really not trying to help me at all. Boy, was I surprised. When I arrived at the first meeting with her, she shared with me that she had reviewed all of my grades and noticed how well I did in accounting courses. She advised me to consider changing my major to accounting versus business. She thought it was more specific and I would stand out as an African-American female, which is very true. There were only 3 African-American females in the program. I can say that turned out to be the greatest advice, which led to many positions throughout my career. Fast forward, December 2007. I was Assistant Director of Budget and Management Services for the City of Durham. Julie Brenman, the director, resigned, and although she had only worked with me for 2 years, she recommended me for the director's position. In May 2008, I was offered the Director of Budget and Management Services position with the City of Durham by the City Manager, Patrick Baker. I was so excited. Everything was perfect. My husband and I had great careers and 2 beautiful daughters. Then in November 2008, I suffered the most significant loss in my life. At the age of 40, my husband was dead. This shattered my world and changed my life forever. I was left with an elderly mother with dementia and 2 children to care for who were 8 and 9 years old. I had just started a very demanding and sometimes very stressful job. My first thought was, God, I can't do this alone. My mother had been there for me my whole life. She consoled me and comforted me. Although my mother was empathetic to our pain, she also reminded us that we are not alone. She reminded us that children lose their fathers every day to drugs, prison, murder, abandonment, and a host of other reasons. She reminded us of the sacrifices our military families make and the losses they suffer. After that, I never allowed my daughters to use the loss of their dad as an excuse. They are now 12 and 14, well-adjusted, honor roll students involved in soccer, gymnastics, cheerleading, Girl Scouts, and other clubs and activities, which keep me very busy. I've also never allowed myself to use my loss as an excuse to excel. I believe that sometimes we're too quick to give people excuses based on their life experiences, rather than challenge them to overcome the obstacles they face in their life, which builds character and confidence. The ability to overcome obstacles is a quality necessary for success, young people. So the lessons I have learned throughout my life are: one, I realized early in life that my journey is my journey, not my mother's journey, not my grandmother's journey, or anyone else's journey. Each of us have our own journey, and the choices we make and our ability to overcome the obstacles that we face will determine our destiny. So I say to young people, determine your own destiny. And second, faith is not about believing that nothing bad will happen, but that you will be able to get through it. And finally, I would like to acknowledge all the great women of Durham. Some names have been mentioned earlier in the program, and especially those wonderful women who work for the city of Durham. My colleagues, my mentors, I really appreciate those who are here tonight and those who are not. And thank you all for so much for this opportunity to be on this program.
Thank you, Bertha. Our next panelist is Dr. Chitra Subramaniam. Dr. Subramaniam serves as the Assistant Director for the Center of Educational Excellence and Director of the Duke Office of Continuing Medical Education at the Duke Clinical Research Institute. As Assistant Director of the Center, she works across different functional areas to promote and facilitate the development of outcomes-based education and incorporation of best principles in education in the design and delivery through the center. Dr. Subramaniam obtained her doctoral degree in instructional design and technology from the University of South Florida and has worked in several capacities in education and training. She has published several books, designed and published media-based education, presented at national and international conferences, and published in education journals as well. Please, without further ado, welcome Dr. Chitra Subramaniam.
So good evening, everyone. It is a great honor to be here, so thank you very much for inviting me. As I heard all these stories, I was making notes on what I wanted to say. So I was born and brought up in India. I come from the city of Chennai. If you know, this is in South India. My parents were a very Orthodox South Indian family. My dad worked for IBM for a really long time, retired from IBM. And my mom's a stay-at-home mom, and I have an older brother who today also resides in Tampa in the US. So growing up, most important things for us was education, of course, hard work, honesty, and integrity. That's it. You had no other excuse. You had to go to school, you had to do stuff, because that's, if you know India, I have this side story. We were ruled by the British for a long time, right? 200 years or so. We speak English, everybody does, and we speak British English. I had to change that a little bit after I got here, but I do speak British English. It comes out every now and then. And we have about 52 languages, 375 dialects, every state. We have about 26 states. Every state is a country in its own right. And so it's a lot of fun growing up. And my parents were great parents. They exposed me to a lot of different things. And I actually went from kindergarten through 12th grade to a Catholic convent. That's where I studied. It was an all-girls Catholic convent. You know, they taught you how to sit, how to talk, how to be prim and proper, and everything. I was in the school choir, had a lot of fun. And then I went to an all-girls college where I did my undergrad in India. And then all of a sudden, I go to do my master's in biochemistry, and what a delight! I see guys around me in the classroom. So it was a wonderful experience in the master's program. But despite all of it, I managed to graduate as valedictorian, both undergrad and graduate school. And then, of course, my mom puts this, condition. She says, "You're done. You got to get married now." So I was not happy about that because I just wanted to go study and do things with my life. And she said, "No, that's important. You got to get married." So there I go. I get married in 1994. I came to the U.S., married to an Indian who was settled here. But little did I know that I was getting into a situation which I was not going to be happy about. So I went through, for about 7 years, a lot of abuse. So I'm a survivor of domestic violence and have been abused in every possible way. And also did the thing that everybody does, right? I'm going to have a child, everything's going to be okay. And I did have a child. And when my child was 2 years old, he was reacting to the situation at home, and he was having a hard time. So I have to tell you, I have no idea how your motherly instincts kick in. And I said, this is it. I'm not doing this anymore, right? And it's a huge decision for somebody coming from South India who's coming from a very orthodox family that believes that this is how a woman should live. There is a certain role, there's a way you behave, the way you do things, right? So I decide that this is not what I'm going to do. This is not for me. I'm going to get out of this. So my parents are in India, so that's about 25,000, 30,000 miles away from me. So I pick up the phone one morning at 7 o'clock, and I call my dad, and I say, this is it, I'm done. He says, what do you mean you're done? What are you done with? I said, well, I'm done with my marriage. I'm done, right? So there are certain things that your parents tell you, and it sticks with you for life, right? So for all the young girls out there, if your parents say something, there's always value to it. You got to believe in it. So he says, why are you done? And I said, well, I got all this going on, and I don't think this is for me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've made my decision. And he says, all right, so I have to tell you, you're standing on one side of the road trying to cross to the other, thinking the other side is great. But I have to tell you, it's going to be difficult. You have a 2-year-old. But the one thing I can tell you is I have confidence in you, and I am there to support you no matter what, right? So I said, fine, that's it, I'm doing it. As long as you're okay with it, I'm doing it. So I asked my brother to come pick me up, gathered all my belongings, took my son, and just left. So little did I know that I have immigration issues. I don't have a job. What am I supposed to do? I didn't think about it. It was a survivor thing, right? You just got to get out. And but I have to say, it's been a journey that I would never be sorry for. It's made me who I am. I am a very different person. I have learned to appreciate life. I'm very grateful for things in my life. It's been a long journey, right? So when my son was 2, I had to find ways to find a job, go back to school because I had to take care of my immigration, as well as get an education so I can work in this country. I landed up in a job where I used to work in the morning, make just enough money to put my son in daycare, and survived, worked long, long hours. Went back to get my PhD, but don't ask me how I did it because I worked full-time, had a 2-year-old, and then did all my assignments and homework at around 12 at night and worked till 3 in the morning, and then went back to work. So people ask me now how I did it, and the answer is, I don't know. I don't know, I just had to do it, right? So every time I would get into a situation, I would call my mom, and this is the only thing she would say, and she was so wise about this. She would say, well, we as women get so involved in taking care of other people, right? We're always worried about your family. You're always worried about your children. You're always worried about things that you never tend to realize or recognize how much inner strength you have. And believe me, when there is an issue, when you're facing a tough situation, that strength is going to come out. And she said, all you got to do is believe in it, and you'll be fine, right? And that's exactly what I did. Just believed in it and had faith. It's going to work out. And I am a passionate educator. I love to teach. And I realized that right after I graduated my master's and went to teach high school kids. So it's a wonderful thing for me because I learn every day from my students. I learn every day from people I teach and mentor. So for all the people out there in the audience and the young girls, all you have to do is do not let anybody define who you are. You define who you are. You tell people, this is what I want to be. And just have faith. Just have faith, think big, think positive, and just say, I'm going to do this no matter what. And you will, right? And if I can do it, each one of you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Subramaniam. It took me a while to pronounce that name, but I have it now. Our last panelist is Janice Mack Guess. Janice Mack Guess retired in 2004 after 30 years in marketing and sales with Burroughs Wellcome and GlaxoSmithKline. While at GlaxoSmithKline, Ms. Guess wrote, implemented, and managed the National Preceptorship Program, which was considered the benchmark in the pharmaceutical industry for training pharmaceutical sales representatives. Ms. Guess is an alumnus of Hillside High School and North Carolina Central University. She currently works as an administrator at NCCU in the Department of Environmental Sciences. She enjoys her job and is proud to give back to students. She has held leadership positions in her church and civic organizations and was past president of the Durham chapter of Jack and Jill of America. As owner of Red Carpet Event Marketing, she coordinated 33 buses to the 2009 presidential inauguration of Barack Obama in collaboration with the M.L. King Steering Committee of Raleigh. She is a freelance writer and author of her first book, Little Colored Girls Want to Wear Pearls Too, which will be released this spring. Ms. Guess is the proud mother of 2 children, grandmother to 4, and lives in Durham with her husband Larry and their dog Poncho. Without further ado, welcome Janice Mack Guess.
I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old. I will never forget that hot September morning in 1964 when my father dropped us off on the first day of school. We entered Brogdon Junior High School on the heels of the sweeping passage of the Civil Rights Act of July 2nd, 1964, and the violent climax of Freedom Summer, an intensive voter registration campaign in the Deep South where 3 young civil rights workers were killed trying to register blacks to vote. We were 4 of the 20 students handpicked to desegregate the public schools, a Supreme Court decision of 1954 and mandated through forced integration by the state of North Carolina and Durham County in 1964. My brother and sisters, Jerry, who is now deceased, Jennifer, Joyce, and me, Janice, 2 sets of twins to our parents, the Reverend Benjamin and Mrs. Ollie Mack, and 16 other Negro children set out on a journey that would change us and our world forever. Ironically, we did not decide we wanted to be activists, and it was certainly not our intention to upset the status quo. We were simply obeying our parents and going to school to get an education. The schoolyard was full of students, children that acted like us, played like us, had the same desires like us, except for one difference. They were all white, and we were Negro. The word black was not part of our vocabulary at that time. James Brown had not made it popular and acceptable with his song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, until 1968. The schoolyard was a sea of white children, blonde hair, blue-eyed white children, filled the courtyard as far as the eye could see. When we leaped from my dad's 1962 green Rambler, it was definitely not a giant leap for mankind. I was eager to get started, eager to learn new things, eager to experience this new world and become a part of it, and yes, eager to show them that I was as smart as they were. I believed in my little colored girl innocence, or maybe I should say ignorance, that they would accept me and welcome me with open arms. After all, I had been taught all my life by my preacher dad that Jesus loves all the little children, red and yellow, black and white. They are precious in his sight. All the white children turned around and stared at us. Not only were they staring, they were glaring, and the look in most of their eyes was pure hatred. Fear began to knot in my belly, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid. I swallowed hard and managed to move into the circle my sisters and brothers we intuitively formed for protection. I heard someone say, "What them," the N word that I would not say here, doing here. The sneers and stares followed us as we made our way to the school entrance door, only to be greeted by the same looks on the faces of the adults. I remember my dad saying, "What don't kill you would make you strong." And I thought to myself, please God, give me the strength to make it through this day, and they don't never have to worry about seeing me again. Somehow we made it through the day, but not without several unpleasant incidents. During our lunch hour, the cafeteria workers didn't know whether to smile or cry. But because most of them were black, we did get more food. Of course, we all sat together, but that peace was broken as some students threw their food at us while taunting us with ugly words. Needless to say, that was the longest day of my life. And when my dad picked us up at the end of the school day, we tumbled into the car exhausted and bewildered. The first week passed, and then the first month, until after a while, all the days seemed to roll into one. Even though the taunts seemed to become less brutal, they were replaced with the ever-present looks of contempt. The students that did not hurl mean comments instead just treated us as though we were invisible. Those students that may have empathized with us did not provide any support. The teachers acted like we were invisible too. The gym teacher, Mr. Newzell, we nicknamed him Mr. Hale, made us walk around the track field during class to keep us from participating with the white students. I think they were afraid we would touch them and the blackness would rub off. Each day we returned home and our mom and dad would kiss away the hurt, brush us off, and send us back. I noticed the pain in their eyes when they thought we were not looking as they dropped us off to school. I wondered why we had to walk home from school each day when all the buses were lined up outside waiting to take all those little white children home. I guess back then buses were not assigned to our neighborhoods. But I didn't realize how poor we were until that first year at Brogdon Junior High School. I noticed the white girls wore a different pair of shoes each day, along with their little pleated skirts and white blouses with Peter Pan collars and a string of beautiful petite pearls. The idea that some children had options on what color or type shoe to wear amazed me because I only had 2 pairs of shoes, one pair to wear on Sunday and one pair of Buster Browns for school. However, it was the pearls that I wanted more than anything in the world, and I vowed that one day I would own a string. Of all the humiliation we endured, the most disappointing moment for me was being denied a reward that I rightfully earned. It was the recognition and a scholarship promised to the 7th grader who made the highest grade on a comprehensive science test following a month-long science project. Well, I studied all day and all night and for a month, and finally at the end of that test, I made a 99, the highest grade of all the 7th graders. I was excited and proud in anticipation that I would be presented in assembly and publicly awarded the coveted prize. However, to my utter disappointment, the science award was not given to me. In fact, it was never mentioned, as if it never existed. I don't know if another student was awarded or if the project was discontinued. At times I wondered if it was a figment of my imagination, and it left a hole in my heart and took away a little of my childhood innocence. I could not understand what motivated adults to destroy the hopes and dreams of a child. Well, we finished that year at Brogdon and did not return the next year because my parents purchased a home in South Durham so that we could attend a predominantly black school. It's been almost 50 years since that eventful year. I finally got a real string of cultured pearls, a closet full of bright, shiny shoes, and I regained my confidence and my self-esteem. But most importantly, the wisdom to forgive and to understand that we were part of something bigger than all of us. As a 12-year-old, I often asked myself during that turbulent year, why don't they know that little colored girls want to wear pearls too? And yes, I'm still waiting for my science award. My time is up, but I am pleased to say that my book will be available this spring. And I started writing this story because I realized that our children do not understand the challenges that we faced, my generation faced, so that they can enjoy the privileges that they have today. And I really wrote this story. I was writing this story for my grandchildren. I wanted to leave a legacy for them. Mm-hmm. It is not a mean-spirited story. It is about truth. And I did some research. I became a part of the Pauli Murray Project through the Duke Human Rights Center at the Franklin Humanities Institute. And I told this story one day during a race relation forum. And I got so much feedback. I had people asking me and writing me, and they asked me to please tell my story. And I'm encouraging you, if you have a story to tell, I'm not a writer. I'm doing this from my heart because I think our stories need to be told. Maybe it can help our children. So I look forward to releasing my book this spring. And I hope that you like it and you can take something back with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I tell you, all good things must come to an end. And I can only tell you what we heard tonight was not only good, but extraordinary. And please give our panelists another round of applause. Our next part would usually be the question and answer, which we are going to have, but what we're going to do, we're going to skip that. We're going to go straight to our closing remarks. Our director, Constance Stansel, could not be with us tonight to provide them. She's a little under the weather, and if any of you know her, you know that's very rare. So I will go ahead and close out on her behalf. At this time, I would like to recognize all of those persons who assisted us this evening and who worked hard so that this program would get underway and go smoothly. First, with the Human Relations Division of the NIS Department, please stand to be recognized. Juanita English, Evan Carry-On, and Larry Bell, right over there. Also, if there are any other Neighborhood Improvement Services staff present, please stand. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure that you all noticed when you got here that some of them are in uniforms, others are not, but let me introduce them to you. First, I want to thank Joanne Harper because she contacted a set of Girl Scouts from Southside Church of Christ, Girl Scout Troop number 572. The co-leaders are Velma Bethea and Felicia Leggett, and there are juniors and cadets represented. Will you please stand? Thank you so much for coming out to hear the words. Okay, and the next, Katrina Mitchell, who's on NIS staff, she really came through. Also, the troop from First Calvary Baptist Church, and it's cadets troop number 1675. The leader is Katrina Poole. The co-leaders are Gail Aiken, Katrina Mitchell, and Melissa Newsom. The senior ambassador troop number 1694 is also represented. The leader is Tracy Boone, and the co-leader is Jacqueline Richardson. Will all of you please stand? And let me just say, this is the 11th year for the Women's Forum, and this is what we have always wanted. We always wanted the youth to come out too, in addition to the adults. So I am so very happy to see you, and also very happy Joanne Harper has always promised to do this, and she really came through this time. Thank you. Okay, and last but definitely not least, will Mr. Larry Thomas and his group please come up, the Thomas Mentor Leadership Academy. Let me tell you a little bit about this academy. I'm not sure if you were able to participate in the 10th Women's Forum, then you've got a chance to meet them there. Okay, the Thomas Mentor Leadership Academy, the founder and CEO is Larry E. Thomas. It's a nonprofit organization. It mentors males between the ages of 10 and 15 who are being raised by a single parent or grandparent or grandparents. And they are mentored in the areas of education, decision-making, conflict resolution, and service to the community. So I am going to ask Mr. Thomas to come up at this time.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Ms. Donaldson for inviting us again this year. And also it's good to see Grace Marsh. She's the vice chairwoman of our board. Glad to be here. And also we have some other parents and board members here. But like she said, we mentor young men between the ages of 10 and 15 who's raised by a single parent or they're raised by their grandparents. And one thing our boys learn quickly with us is that this is not Burger King. They can't have it their way. And also they learn they're not in the buffet line at Golden Corral where they can pick and choose on what they want to do. So we teach our boys discipline. We teach them respect, not only for themselves, but respect for others. And everything that we teach them, we hope that it stays with them as they get older. So our boys never age out the program. Once they turn 15 years old, they become peer mentors. Because we get older, they don't want to hear from us. They hear from their peers. So that's what they do. Once they turn 15, they become peer mentors. So at this time, one of our cadet commander is Cadet Haley, and Cadet Haley's will go to Carter Community School. So Cadet Haley. Oh my God.
I'm the leader. I will conquer has not been conquered. Failure will not be in my creed. I will believe when others have doubted. I was indifferent to prestige, honor, and respect of my family. I train my mind and my body will follow. Who am I?
I'm a leader. I will not forget the devil is not set in the wing. I will never surrender. Leaders do not fear my heart. I look close to my parents, to those who brought me to the world, to those who trained me. Now I've got strength from them. Who am I?
I'm the leader. I will gladly go into the world. Now I'll move through beyond the God created me to be. With God's help, I'll reach my full potential. When the devil raises his ugly head, I'll rip his heart out and his on the ground. Because he cannot stop. Who am I?
I'm a leader. To my side, I have family. Family that have been with me through thick and thin, through sacrifice, through peer pressure, through sickness and tears. I will never let them down. Because they are my family, they know my heart. Who am I?
I am a leader. No one would deny me, no one would defy me, and no one would tell me who and what I can and cannot be. Believer in this whole world. It has moved continents and countries and put man on the moon, and it will carry me through this battle. Who am I?
I am a leader. Defeat, retreat. Those are not in my words. I do not understand those definitions. I do not understand negativity. I do not understand complaining and whining. But I do understand this. I understand success. I understand never quitting, no matter how bad things get. My heart and my mind and my God will carry me through it. Who am I?
I'm a leader. Today will be that day. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right here, right now. I'm desperate for greatness. Who am I? I'm a leader. History will remember me, and I don't have to worry about him being kind. I'll define myself. I'll write my own praises, and no one will tell me who and what I can and cannot be. I'll never go home without giving everything I've got, because I'm a leader.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, this concludes our 11th Annual Women's Forum and Program for the TV audience, because I want those of you that have questions to stay so that we can go ahead and continue with that portion. But I also want to thank all of you for coming out, and especially the youth, because as I said, that's what we wanted to do. Thank you.